Hello, everyone. Are we awake? Yes? Okay, that's actually pretty good. It does seem like we're a little bit awake. My name is Emily Harden. I'm going to be giving this presentation. I have a little bit of a brief intro later. But first, I'm going to be the person that's going to ask you to participate. So hopefully you're ready for that. The first thing, I want everyone to close their eyes and raise your hand if you think you're the smartest person in the room. Raise your hand if you think you're in the top 20%. Top 50%? All right. Close your, or open your eyes, the opposite. Okay. So as an FYI, about 20% raise their hands and about 50% raise their hands. So it's pretty good. But the thing about it is, we're all smart in different ways, and that's what I'm going to really be touching on today. So, I do not consider myself the smartest person in the room, spoiler alert. I think if I were the smartest person in the room and I knew everything about all of the things you all know about, my head would explode. Okay, I'm pretty positive. So a little bit about me. I'm located in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You might have heard earlier the Thunder Plains conference coming up. So yes, I'm biased. Yes, you come to that. So I am a super nerd. I love playing board games and video games. That's my style. That's my thing. Happy to nerd out about that later. When you were a baby, how many of you remember learning how to talk? Anyone? Anyone? Really? That's so surprising. How many of you remember learning how to walk? No? No? Third. Okay. Well, what about when you got a little bit older and you finally got your first A grade? You finally passed the test, or you finally got the football through the field goal. Do you remember that? You remember some of that? Hopefully you felt happy and proud. You were excited. You were happy that you were there, right? That's what you really have to strive for. So when you get older, you start getting embarrassed when you make mistakes. There's a certain age that you read. It depends on what kind of scientific articles you read about this, about what age you hit when you actually start to feel embarrassment. When you start to feel concerned that you have to be the smartest, you feel that pressure. You feel that you need to be the person that knows the most in the room. You need to not ask the stupid question, right? How many of you have said, "Can I ask a dumb question?" Raise your hand. I literally said it this week. I was so embarrassed. I was like, dang it, I'm literally giving a talk about this, okay? There are no such things as dumb questions, okay? Now, are there dumb questions? Kind of, okay? Why is the sky blue? I can't think of any other dumb questions, but there are dumb questions, okay? But if you don't know the answer, it's not dumb, right? If you don't know the answer, you're literally just asking for clarification, and that is okay. I'm gonna make sure I'm hitting everything here. Okay, now, how many of you think that I am biased? Okay, it's true. I did mention it. How many of you think you are biased? Yes, that is correct. Every single person is biased. Every single person is biased about something, about someone. I am a cisgender, white, bi, woman with a disability and mental health issues, and I'm a major nerd, okay? All of those things combine to make me a biased person. But to be honest, we don't really have a whole lot of control over our own biases because there's implicit bias, right? Automatically, as a person, when you are growing up as a human being, you automatically feel a bias. It is a survival mechanism. You want to find people that are like you. You need to find things that are similar to you. Those are feeling more familiar. Those are going to feel like things that you understand more easily. It's an automatic reaction. They've done studies and things. It's very, very hard to untrain. There are lots of people that think you can't untrain it, okay? you're going to have a bias. When you see me, you're going to think, wow, you might not have known all those facts about me, but you might not have assumed I have a disability, right? You might not have assumed I have mental health issues. You probably knew I was married. I'm wearing a ring, but that's about it, right? The thing switches when we go to explicit bias. We're actually acting on those biases, right? So when you start saying like, okay, I don't want to talk to people that are Republican or Democrat. I'm not going to go into politics. Please don't ask me to go into politics. I'm not going to talk to people that are wearing a red shirt today. I just don't like it. Okay. Those are things that are explicit biases. Things you are acting on, you're aware of, you're doing in your head and saying out loud and taking the actions against it. Okay. Now, next thing I want to talk about is you're going to feel uncomfortable when you leave from your biases. You're going to feel like an upside down turtle at the end of a dirt mound. I like turtles. That's a bias for me. So you're going to feel like you don't know what to do. Okay. But eventually you'll get to the top of the dirt mound. You'll eventually get to the point that you understand some of your own biases. You'll get to the point that you understand what it's like to experience another position, because you won't always be the same person you are now. 10 years ago, I had no disability. I had less mental health issues. I wasn't a speaker. I wasn't in tech. I had nothing to do with any of this. I have different biases now than I did then. Now, I'm going to ask you to be uncomfortable, right? You have to get out of your comfort zone to be comfortable. That does not mean to be unsafe. Don't do this, okay? Being uncomfortable and unsafe are two very different things, okay? As a woman, I feel unsafe sometimes walking down the street at night in a town I'm not familiar with, right? Seeing this makes me feel unsafe, okay? But the feeling of unsafety is not what I'm trying to go for here. Uncomfortable, okay? Getting uncomfortable. Now, I know, you're comfortable. You're in your comfort spot. You're in your sweet spot. You don't want to get out of your comfort zone. I get that. I totally get that, okay? I mean, look how comfy he is. He's so comfy. And I totally get not wanting to leave the comfort zone. But the thing about it is, when you leave your comfort zone, you can experience really cool things. So me, personal example, I'm afraid of heights. I am terrified, okay? I didn't do it out here, but like if I leaned over that balcony, I would have been like, okay, not a height person. When I was in Thailand a few years ago, I went on a zip line, okay? Now, was that terrifying? Yes. Do I regret it? No. Was I saying some inappropriate words sometimes? Probably, okay? But you see how happy I am? I'm thrilled. I got this photo and I was like, wow, I guess I did have a good time. They messed with us a lot though, so it was a little terrifying. They did a lot of like connecting their hooks to our hooks and then pretending to jump off. It was great, but I had a great time. All right, now let's go into you. Now, when I was making this slide, I tried to find people pointing at you and all of them looked so creepy. If you ever look at stock photos of people pointing at you, it freaks you out. I'm just going to guarantee that for you right now. Okay. So what I'm going to do right now is have a volunteer. Do I have anyone who will volunteer? Perfect. What's your name?
Thomas.
Thomas. Okay, Thomas. Tell me, what is your job?
I am a freelance web developer and waiter.
Okay, a freelance web developer and waiter. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to tell you what your job is. You are a freelance web developer. So some days you wake up and you type some code and it's got HTML and CSS and then you end the code with some brackets probably. And that's pretty much a description of your job and that's all you do, right? No.
No.
No. Okay. Now, you know me. My name's Emily. I'm the executive director of Techlahoma. Tell me what I do.
Work with people a lot.
Yes, work with people a lot. I do. That's correct. That's not all I do, right? The reason I'm doing this is because we do not know what each other is actually doing for a living. We don't know what everyone's going through, okay? I can absolutely not be a web developer. I can guarantee you that. You are way smarter than me, and being a web developer, guaranteed. I personally took free code camp, HTML and CSS, tried to do JavaScript, and so I'm out, okay? You are smarter than me when it comes to web development, okay? I can guarantee it. You're probably smarter at me than when it comes to waiting as well. I am not a waiter. I have never been a waiter. I did other jobs similar, but never a waiter, okay? I can guarantee you are smarter than me. I can guarantee I am smarter than you. It's all a matter of perspective. It's all a matter of what we're actually talking about. The other thing about it is feeling like you're smart. Sometimes you might feel like the smartest person in the room. You might walk into a room full of 5-year-olds. Yeah, it's a birthday party or something, right? You might feel like you're the smartest person there. You might be. But the thing about it is a 5-year-old is going to experience joy probably a lot more and a lot fuller than you are. A 5-year-old is going to understand what it's like to respect their parents in a different way than you're respecting yours now, because you're probably living on your own. Or you might not be, but you're still an adult, right? So I love this quote from C.S. Lewis about being humble, right? And it's not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. So when you're thinking of yourself, taking care of yourself, you're not actually thinking of yourself in a negative light, right? Just thinking of others makes you automatically be a little more humble and automatically work on not being the smartest person in the room. Okay, does anyone remember when Coca-Cola became New Coke? New Coke? Okay, if you're unfamiliar, yes, exactly. If you're unfamiliar, Coca-Cola said, you know what our customers need? A new formula. And they created a new formula for Coke, and they called it New Coke. I don't know if they actually called it New Coke. And they released it to the masses, and it was met with such public backlash. People were like, what? Why would you ruin Coke? Like, why would you do that? And everyone hated it. And they decided, oh, oops, our bad. And they immediately switched it, and now they have like Original Coke, or they switched the naming and stuff. Another example, wow, that is blurry. Okay. The University of California, they changed their logo to the right. They didn't get as many student feedback as maybe they should have. A lot of people said it looked like a toilet. Kind of does, to be honest. So they immediately switched their logo again, right? The reason they had to do these things, the reason Coca-Cola and University of California had to do these things is because they weren't getting enough feedback. They weren't hearing from other people in the room. They weren't examining all the people that they actually need to hear from. All right. So now we need to talk about making sure we're not all the same person. Making sure we've got a lot of diversity, okay? Diversity in mindset, diversity in background, diversity in everything, okay? Diversity does not mean that I need to make sure I have someone of every age, someone of every race. It means you can have a diversity in education. You can have a diversity in job experience, right? We're in the same room right now, but you and I have very different lives. And I know that your job experience and my job experience are going to bring different ideas to light. Wikipedia is a great example. How many people have used Wikipedia before? Crazy. I never thought of that. Okay. So Wikipedia, now granted, I wouldn't use it as a super reliable source, but it's pretty reliable, okay? For most articles. That's an example of collaborative mindset. People working together to solve a problem, to answer a question, to figure something out. Another example is Post-its. Does anyone know the history of Post-its? No one? Okay. So Post-its were an accident. Someone was at 3M was trying to create a really super strong adhesive. And they were like, well, this isn't a strong adhesive. This is like a reusable adhesive. That's pointless. I don't need that. And then someone said, you know what? I'm trying to have bookmarks all the time. And my bookmarks are always like falling out and I can't get them to stick. And they created Post-its. Okay. Now, if they were thinking purely about their own resolve, their own thought, maybe the person who was looking for bookmarks would have just gotten some sort of rubber band or done something else as a bookmark, right? Maybe the person with the really strong adhesive would have just let that formula sit in the back and not done anything with it. But they were working together, and so they were able to work on that collaborative mindset. Who here has felt imposter syndrome? Yes. All right. My imposter syndrome story is that when I was in a leadership training with about 20 different leaders, we're talking CEOs, CTOs, VPs of big companies. I was definitely not the smartest person in the room, okay? They had us all take a survey and said, have you felt imposter syndrome? And about half of the people responded, it was anonymous, that yes, they had. Then they explained what imposter syndrome was. And everyone, because some of the people didn't know. And then when they retook the survey, every single person in that entire room said, yes, I feel imposter syndrome. I felt it in the past 2 weeks. Okay. Imposter syndrome is real. It's rough. I'm sure you've heard about it. I'm sure you've seen TikToks about it. It's a thing. Okay. The thing about it is, you're not an imposter if you're here. Because, for instance, me, I was chosen to speak at this conference. Okay. That made me feel a little bit impostery. I've only spoken at 4 or 5 different conferences before. This is a relatively new talk I'm giving. I was just a little nervous. I'm still a little nervous. I'm up here, but okay. However, I submitted a talk, which means I know about something, okay? A team of people looked through my talk and said, yeah, she knows a little something about something. And then you all decided to sit here, which means you all think I know a little something about something, okay? All 3 of those are indicators I'm not an imposter, right? When you get a job, when you get hired for something, you apply for the job because you think you know something about something. You get the job offer, they think you know something, and then you're doing the job. You're not an imposter anymore. You never were, but you definitely aren't, right? If you're given a position, if you're given a title, if you're doing the thing, you're not an imposter. Now, that's way easier said than done. It's way easier to act on helping others and saying things like, you're not an imposter, and then you still feel it yourself. I definitely don't know what that's like at all. Okay, so talking about smartness, what is intelligence? Anyone have a definition of intelligence? Ability to learn. What? Something endlessly debated. Okay. How many types of intelligence do we think there are?
It's a lot.
A lot. I heard infinity. I heard someone say 0. That's an interesting idea. According to this source, there are 9. Now, I've seen sources of 4. I've seen sources of 20. I picked 9. 9's my lucky number. Okay. I'm not saying there are 9 specific types of intelligence. I'm saying this source says there are 9 specific types of intelligence. Okay. Now, you might have 1 or 2 or 4. But I can tell you, I don't have this one. I know that for a fact. Okay. Don't have that type of intelligence. Does anyone here participate in music? Does anyone? Okay. So we got 3, 4, 5. We have 5 musicians here. They are definitely smarter than me in that type of intelligence. I took 6 years of piano and 1 year of guitar. You know what I can play? Nothing. I took a couple of years of vocal. No, not for me. Theater, I can do. Can you tell? I feel like I exhibit the theater energy, the theater kid like vibe. Okay. Spatial, I can never tell where we are at anywhere. I don't know where I am. I have to look at maps. I was like, okay, I think I'm on the second floor right now. That's about my spatial awareness. Okay. But that doesn't mean I'm not as smart as you. And again, that doesn't mean you're smarter than me. It means we're kind of both, right? So how do we fix this? How do we change this in our mind and say, I hope I'm not the smartest person in the room, and I know I'm not. And how do I make sure that I'm not? A couple things. Visiting your local library, books and resources, of course. I mean, if you want to look up anything, go to your library, okay? However, I'm talking to a group of tech people, okay? How many of you have used tech to look up how to fix your code? Okay. How many of you have used tech to look up how to fix your resume, how to update your LinkedIn status, how to do something social media wise, right? Okay. So why not use it to help you learn how to network with people? Why not use it to learn how to examine yourself internally and figure out what you want to learn more about? Just look up your passions. Look up, if I needed to learn about music, maybe I need to go talk to Glenn, who's speaking after me, and ask him some questions about music. I know I've already asked him some questions about talking. He's already given me a bunch of advice. Now I'm using a lapel mic, right? So using the resources you know you have. The other thing is taking advantage of mentorship opportunities. So mentors, I have a strong feeling, are not always what you think they are. You can be mentored by someone who's younger than you. You can be mentored by someone who is reporting to you. These are people you can learn from about something, okay? A mentor for someone that's younger or reporting to you, let's say I'm the manager of an employee and that employee is able to tell me how to be a better manager. One, because they've seen me manage them, and two, because I'm probably not their first manager. So they're going to give a best input, the best kind of things that I can think about. Another thing is you're here. You're networking. You're talking to people. Good job, right? Coming to conferences, coming to things like that, you're going to experience something and learn something you didn't know before. Now, are you going to remember the exact piece of code that someone told you about in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Are you going to remember this talk in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Probably not. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. Now, I'm kind of not okay with that. But that's my own personal problem, okay? When you attend a talk, you're trying to remember things, you're going to learn things, and you're going to take that with you. But that doesn't mean you're going to keep it in the back of your mind all of the time. It doesn't mean you're going to remember to act on it all of the time. It means you're going to spend some time thinking about how you can be better, even if it's just the 2 minutes after this talk, because I'm definitely going to wrap early, okay? You might spend a few minutes thinking about it, but that doesn't mean that it's not worth it to take this time, okay? You are going to be a different person tomorrow. Whether you attended a conference or not, you're going to be a different person tomorrow, okay? But you spent some time today working on your education, working on your networking skills, working on your food eating skills, because those burritos were delicious, okay? So finding mentors, reaching out to the potential mentors. The thing about mentors, you can have someone younger than you can have someone reporting to you. You can also have 5-minute mentors, right? There are people that you're going to learn from for 5 minutes. Maybe you learned something today in the past 30 minutes that I've been speaking, and you'll take it with you. Maybe I mentored you for like a minute, right? Mentoring doesn't have to be a once a month we have coffee and I vent about my problems, right? Mentoring can come in all different aspects, all different ways. It's a matter of what you're looking for it. But you have to be open to feedback. You cannot go into a mentor opportunity and think, okay, I know that they're going to tell me how to solve this problem like this. And so if they don't tell me that, then I'm still going to solve my problem like this, right? You have to be open to feedback. I know that one of the feedback things I'm going to get is that it is 8:56 and I'm going to be too short on time because I already know where I am in my slides, okay? I know that that's going to be a problem, okay? But I'm open to that feedback, right? I'm also open to you saying, Emily, I hated that talk. That was a waste of my time. And I'd be like, well, it was shorter, so. Don't spiral, evolve. I really think it's a good idea to think about things in a different mindset. Think about things in a different way than you view it. This is, of course, a random Pinterest meme, okay? But if you look at it from above, the evolve is a spiral too, right? It's going to look the same. I sometimes spiral when I'm in a room full of people that I think are more intelligent than me. Earlier this week, I spoke at a conference, ApacheCon, and it was very technical. And everyone there was talking about Kubernetes, some other stuff. I don't know. I literally don't know. I attended like 2 talks because they really freaked me out because I was like, they know way more than me. Okay. But I got to learn a little bit. A lot of it was, okay. But I was there. All right. And that helped me to evolve a little bit. I'm realizing a little more about myself, about maybe I am a little interested in some of that technical stuff. Maybe I do want to go into a little bit more. Okay. So remember, you don't know everything unless you're on Swanson. He does know everything. There's just nothing you can do about that. My name is Emily Harden. You can find my slides and a couple of the resources at emily.harden.page. There's also stickers for Techlahoma at the booth back there. Remember, for Thunder Plains Conference, you can get 20% off by code METHOD. This is me at the Techno Gala that we hosted. Like I said, I'm a nerd. If you don't believe my nerd status, I played Baldur's Gate for over 500 hours. Okay. All right. That's it. Thank you. Any questions? Does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
So you said you dealt with imposter syndrome in the past. How have you found, are there any effective methods you've found for dealing with that and reducing the anxiety that comes from that?
Yeah. So, okay. He asked about reducing imposter syndrome and the anxiety that you get from that and how do you deal with that? So for me, I push it down deep. No, I do a little bit of that. Okay. Weekly therapy has helped me a lot. I'm going to be honest, that's helped a lot. Another thing is people are trusting you, right? People are trusting you and they put you in this position. You didn't put yourself. I mean, you might have worked hard, you might have done it, but someone else vouched for you. Someone else said yes. That means you're not an imposter. That means someone else approved you and said, yes, you're doing the thing. Okay. The other thing I would say is look into other people that are doing the same job as you, or the same task, or the same whatever it is as you, and talk to them about it. What is their day in life, right? This conference is run really well, I can tell. I'm a conference organizer myself, so I can tell what a good one and a bad one. I've attended other conferences where I get like one email and they said, hey, come to the conference, and that's it. And there's no breakfast, and there's no name badges, and there's, nothing prepped, and no one's has done an AV check prior, and like I've been to terrible things, right? So that kind of re-verified for me. I'm okay at doing conferences. But I also think you can learn from the people who are doing great things. This conference has been great in that they picked us up from the airport. We didn't have to Uber. It's a tiny thing. It doesn't do a whole lot, but it's helped me. And so now I'm going to take that back to a conference I run and say, we should be doing that. That doesn't mean I'm an imposter. That doesn't mean I'm doing a bad job at running a conference. It means I'm learning. Everyone's learning. No one is 100% the best at every job they do, at any job they do. If you are doing a fantastic job in one task, that's great. I'm happy for you. But someone else could be doing the task better if you talk to them, if you learn from each other. And that's kind of what I'm hoping people get out of this is you're not the smartest person in the room. No one is on anything. You need to learn from each other and get feedback from each other and solicit all that information. So that would be my advice. Any other questions? Yeah.
Proactive in identifying bias, not in a general, all humans are biased kind of way, but in a specific, and I am deviating from what is considered reasonable in this specific area.
Okay, so the question was, how do you figure out what kind of biases you hold, not in a just I'm human way, but in a actually tangible way? So there's a couple things. If you are a hiring manager, for instance, and you're hiring people and you look at, let's just make it easy, 2 different people. They both have the same qualifications and it's just a matter of one of them, you talk to them about a really cool video game and the other one, you talk to them about their knowledge of the job. Okay. You kind of like vibe with the video game person, but you don't really vibe with the person with that you talked about the job. Who do you hire? Like you want to say you would hire the person that was talking about the job. That's what you want to say. But is it true? So pulling back the lens. So thinking about things like I interacted with someone at the supermarket today and I was a little short with them. Why? Thinking about the interactions you have on a daily basis and figuring out exactly, like doing some interpersonal analysis. Introspection, that's the word. Introspection, I think, is the best way to do so. You can also ask your friends. You can say, hey, have you noticed if I'm biased about anything? I personally know I'm a little biased against, people that don't play video games and board games. Because I'm like, what do you do with your life? I don't understand. I'm biased against people that are athletic because I also don't understand. Okay, I don't get it. I'm not athletic. Who goes to the gym? Ugh. Okay, I don't get it. So when I talk to people about those things and someone's like really passionate about the gym, I have to be like, okay, I don't like the gym. Not my thing. But they are passionate about that subject and I understand passion. I get that. So let me connect with them on that kind of level, right? It is about introspection though, because when you're talking to someone about the gym and you realize you were a little short and you realize you were not really having the best conversation with them, you have to pull back and be like, why? Sometimes it might be they're rude and you don't want to talk to them. That's fine. Don't talk to rude people. I'm biased against rude people. Is that bad to say? I don't think so. So I really think it's a lot about introspection, asking your friends. There's online quizzes and stuff you can take. You can also take an implicit bias quiz that is very interesting. I'll make sure to add it to my slide notes. Basically, it takes a quiz and you have to click who the smiling person is. And they find that you almost always click the person with the same race as you, regardless of who's smiling. Very interesting. So you're going to be biased. It's a matter of examining and not acting on said biases. I hope that helped answer a little bit. It's all introspection, so it's really hard to give like a concrete example. Any other questions? Yeah. Okay.
I was just gonna ask. So, the example you give, who would you pick? The person who talks about the
Video games or the job. Okay. So she asked who I would pick, the person who talks about the video games or the person who talks about the job. That was a very like upper level, I would say, job right now, right? I think that's what I would say. I think it also matters in personality. It matters in terms of like things like who actually is going to mesh well with the group you already have. So if the person who was talking about the job is great, but they don't know about video games, they actually might be even better because you're going to get a different point of view. You're going to get a different aspect. If the person I'm talking about video games is the only person that's interested in video games in the whole company, that might be the person who I need to talk to. That might be the person I need, because you need to pull in people that are giving you different perspectives, that are giving you a different example. They've walked from different parts of life so that they're not going to give you the same opinion that you have. You need opposite opinions. You need different opinions. You don't want a yes man. Yeah.
A lot of the things that you discussed in your presentation are about being very mindful and present and being very self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any advice for people?
Yeah. So the question was about being mindful and being self-aware. That's kind of what I was talking about a lot in my presentation, and advice for people who aren't. First, I have to do a TikTok thing, very mindful, very demure. Okay. So you really did, and I appreciate it, and I thank you. So in terms of being a little more mindful, there are books out there. Like, oh gosh, one of them's called like Burn This Book or Tear This Book Up or something. And it's a book that has you literally write like my biggest fear, and then you tear it out of your book and you rip it to pieces. There are books, there's one that I'm currently reading called Sometimes Putting Your Pants On Is Enough. Okay. There's a whole bunch of resources out there in terms of books that you can use. I'm a big advocate for mental health, so therapy is a big thing that I always recommend. I personally think anyone and everyone should go to therapy at least once in their life, just to have a little introspection time. The other thing is mindfulness. You can find it in like yoga and stuff. If you're interested in that, that's totally fine. Give yourself 2 minutes before you go to bed. 2 minutes to think about your day. What was good about your day? What was bad about your day? How can you make the next day better? 2 minutes. That's what I would suggest. You spend a little time thinking about what you're actually doing all day, every day. A lot of people don't spend enough time with themselves. I find myself very guilty of that. I cannot sit still. I need to be, if I'm watching TV, I'm also playing a game on my phone, working on the ADHD diagnosis. But, I think there's a point where you just have to spend a second and say, okay, if nothing else is around me, how do I feel? Am I happy? Am I sad? Am I mad? Get out a feelings wheel. I know, cliche, it's ridiculous, it's a little thing. But there's a feelings wheel, and you can say, I'm happy, but I'm not really happy. I'm optimistic. And I'm optimistic. Why am I optimistic? Well, I'm excited about this upcoming speaking event that I'm doing in Springfield. And I'm really excited to talk about how I'm not the smartest person in the room. Okay, what about that excites me? Well, I like to talk to people. Okay, I'm a big talker. Can you guess? I like to meet new people. That's another thing that excites me. Are there any other things I'm feeling? Well, I'm feeling a little bit nervous, feeling a little bit stressed. What if they don't like me? What if I'm not the smartest person in the room? Well, that's the goal of my talk, so it's fine, right? Introspection is very difficult. It's very, very difficult. So doing light introspection as a start is a great way. 1 to 2 minutes of just like, what was the highlight of my day? What was the low light of my day? They call it rose, thorn, and bud is another method. You have the rose of your day, the best part, the thorn, the worst part, and the bud, the thing you're excited for moving forward, right? That's a good method to do. There's tons of different methods of versions of this. If you look up mindfulness techniques, you're going to find thousands. But find the one that works best for you. I personally can't journal. I know a lot of people find happiness in journaling. Not me. I tried to audio journal. I tried to write journal. I tried to digital journal. Can't do any of it. But I can talk to someone once a week for an hour and vent my problems. That works great. Any other questions? Yeah.
So you talk about the importance of leaning into discomfort, going outside your comfort zone. How do you make sure how do you draw that line effectively between doing something that's uncomfortable and doing something that's unsafe?
Okay.
Because that line feels very blurred.
Yes. So finding the separation between uncomfortable and unsafe was the question. Where's that line? So unsafe, there's things that are on the extreme unsafe, like the court example I gave, like that's obviously unsafe. And there's things that are uncomfortable, like sitting in an awkward seat, right? Those are clear sides. But everything else in the middle is very blurry, right? Do you have a fear for your life that is warranted? Okay. Things like, and I'm also not speaking about mental health. Like there are mental health barriers sometimes that will prevent you from doing things. That is not what I'm discussing here. I'm talking for an average neurotypical person. Because there are people that have like extreme fear of heights and could not do what I did, right? I have a fear of heights that's a relatively regular fear of heights, okay? Ask a friend. Ask the internet. That's what ChatGPT was made for. It wasn't made for that, but for me, it was made for asking a bunch of dumb questions. Again, not dumb questions. See, I'm still catching myself, okay? It's for asking questions that you need clarification on. So, walking in a different part of town, probably safe during the day, right? Walking in a different part of town during the nighttime, are you familiar with the area enough that you feel comfortable? Or you feel a little uncomfortable, but not unsafe, right? It's a very hard line to find. See, if you have, let's bring this back to work. So if you have a job, you're a web dev consultant, right? Someone asks you to build a website, the type of which you've never made, okay? That is not unsafe because the worst that could happen is they say you did a terrible job and you get fired from that job, okay? Now, granted, that doesn't feel safe, right? But you know that you have your backing, you know that you've done other things, you know what you know. So taking the jump, taking the risk, and then notifying them you're taking a risk is okay. If they're like, hey, we want you to build this website, and you say, okay, I'm learning this still, and they're still okay with it, they're allowing you to take that risk, right? That's a known risk, a known quantity. Unsafe versus is a very hard line. It's a very hard line to tell. That's a very good question. Yeah, I'd love to hear your example.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine and safe, but I can feel uncomfortable. It can be awkward just to sit there alone and get dinner alone. But what would be unsafe is if I went out clubbing in downtown Springfield on a Friday night.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's all, so the example she gave was going to a restaurant, eating alone versus going clubbing alone. Those are different examples. Now, some people might feel differently though. Some people might feel comfortable or just slightly uncomfortable clubbing alone. You know, that's true, right? So the line is very individualistic. Yeah. 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 I think risk reward analysis is what he said. Trying to figure out that hierarchy of what you're looking for. I think getting uncomfortable does not mean getting unsafe, but you have to define that for yourself, is the bottom line. And that's difficult sometimes. That's why I suggest asking your close friends, asking your family, talking to them about what that line actually is. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you all for the feedback. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you all working with me. Thank you for being my example. I'm going to give you one of these pins. It says it's pronounced GIF. So that is your reward. Thank you so much. If you have any other questions or want to chat with me later, let me know. But thank you.